Hey, this is Jim Katsoulis, and I want to talk to you about a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and share with you some of the things I think may be most helpful and practical to you in your life. As someone who helps people change their habits and behaviors, I thought it was a really good book because it explains what habits are in a real succinct way. And he starts explaining that by referencing a experiment they did with mice where they measured their brain activity while they ran through a maze. And what was interesting is the first couple times they ran through the maze, there was a ton of brain activity because the mice were trying to figure out what they were doing. But what was interesting is after running it for a while, the brain activity went down. And so this kind of led to the discovery that our brains have evolved over millions of years to conserve as much energy as possible. And through a process called chunking, where we learn something and it becomes an automatic process, our brain conserves a lot of energy, right? And so we've all gone through this process many times in our lives. When you think about how you can read, write, walk, talk, drive a car, brush your teeth, these are all behaviors that you learned and you can now do practically on autopilot, right? It takes almost no energy to do them. And so this is kind of a fascinating understanding of habits because what it leads to is that you understand that this part of your brain that holds these habits, right? It's called the basal ganglia. It's a kind of a core part of your brain. It runs on autopilot and it's much more powerful than the conscious part of your mind, right? That's why if you reference back to times when you were learning, new behaviors, it's tiring, right? Because you're using so much energy to learn it. But once you get it, it's just easy and automatic. So this becomes important in a few moments when I talk about how to change habits. So because habits are so unconscious and so automatic, he kind of breaks out what the habit loop is, okay? And the habit loop is basically there's a cue or a trigger, there's the behavior, the routine, and then there's the reward, right? The reward that we're anticipating or expecting. And it's that anticipation or expectation of the reward that drives the habit loop, right? So in a specific example here, I work a lot with people with weight loss. And so if someone has a nighttime eating habit, the cue or the trigger could be, and the basic cues or triggers are time, place, people that are around, or your emotional state of mind. And so say this person in the nighttime eating habit, it's 8 o'clock at night, they're sitting on their sofa in front of their TV, they're feeling tired because they worked all day. So that's the cue or the trigger. The behavior becomes eating. And the reward, this is the interesting part, the reward is kind of two parts. There's the physical part of it, right? There's the obvious benefits of, you're eating ice cream and it tastes good. But that's a small part compared to the emotional reward that people are getting out of it. And again, this is going to become important in a moment as well. And the emotional reward could be, could be relaxation. It could be that they had a stressful day and this is their way to kind of decompress or just to have a few minutes kind of check out, get away from the stresses of the world. It could be a sense of reward that they deserve this. They worked hard and now they get to have this. So it is that reward that kind of triggers that kind of keeps this whole thing going, night after night. And so when he's talking about changing habits, he has something he calls the golden rule of habit change, which is that you cannot extinguish a bad habit. You can only change it. Now, this is very important when it comes to when you want to change your habits, because typically when someone has a bad habit, what they try and do is they try and just stop it, okay? And the truth is you can't, because again, your habit is stored in this part of your brain. It's hard-coded into this part of the brain, so it never goes away, right? So what he talks about is he calls it habit reversal training, and specifically what he says is you keep the same cue and you keep the same reward and you focus your energy on changing the behavior. And this is really important, okay? Because again, first of all, it's less stuff that you're trying to change. You're still keeping some of the initial wiring. You're just kind of rerouting it a little bit, which ends up being easier. But here's the key thing and I've found this in my own work with people, is that say in this example of nighttime eating, you say, that's it, I'm going to stop eating at night, right? And people do this. And so you do it for a little bit and great, you stopped eating, you may even be feeling a little bit better physically. But here's the problem. You've stopped giving yourself the reward, right? And so if that nighttime eating was how you relaxed and decompressed from the world, and now you just said, that's it, no more eating, and you never found a new way to get that relaxation, to get that break, then what ends up happening is, yeah, you're doing something better, but it doesn't feel better, right? Because your stress kind of just keeps ramping up because you now no longer have kind of that release valve that you were using the food for. So this is where, again, that habit reversal training and understanding the habit loop becomes real important, because again, you're using the same cues that are going to kick off and trigger anyways, and what you're doing is you're keeping the same reward, but we want to find a new way to create that reward, right? Now, one thing I would kind of add to what he said that I've seen help this whole process is when you actually not only keep the reward, but you make the reward even bigger. And so what I mean by that is, say someone wants to, lose weight and eat better at night. We want to fulfill their initial emotional needs of relaxation and, kind of release or distraction or just taking a break from the world. But now we can add even more reward to it, where if they find a new habit to do that, maybe, again, this is just an example, but they go and, they get massages, or they do yoga, or they take hot showers or hot bath to relax and kind of get a break from the world. And now we want to boost up the reward there, is that they can also imagine that they're going to feel better physically, they're going to look better, they're going to start losing weight, they're going to have more energy, they're going to sleep better. Okay, so we're kind of building up the reward on that as well. So that's kind of a little extra thing you can do that I think helps out this process. But again, the main thing is that you're not just trying to stop things, because that doesn't work. Is the main point. The main point of that mouse experiment is that this part of your brain that your habits go into is unbelievably more powerful than the conscious part of your mind. So to think that you're going to change your behaviors by consciously being in control of them all, is to say that you're going to fight against literally the way that your brain has evolved, in the way that it works. So again, I think this approach here makes a lot more sense. So one last thing I just want to mention is he references this idea, Keystone habits. And I thought this was kind of profound. And again, not that you don't know this on some level, but I think the fact that he gave it a specific name and an idea is really good. So basically, Keystone habits is, he found throughout writing this book, that when people added, and it almost didn't matter how small the habit was, but when they added a positive habit into their life, that it had kind of a chain reaction. And so it could be something as simple as, brushing your teeth in the middle of the day, right? And I don't think he mentions that, but I'm just giving an example. All of a sudden, just by doing that, it has a chain reaction. So maybe now you eat better in the afternoon, right? Because now you did something good and you're feeling better about yourself, boost your self-esteem. And it can start to have all these little chain reaction positive effects. And so I thought this was profound. So profound that I literally started a new program based on it called the Keystone Club, about installing just like one habit at a time. Because again, what most of us do when we want to create a change in our lives is we want to change everything. Okay, but when you understand again how your brain works, it's too overwhelming. But if you focus on one habit at a time and kind of hardwire it into your mind so it starts running automatically, then you move on to the next one. You know what I mean? And kind of go one at a time. And then knowing as well that when you get that good habit installed, that it in and of itself is going to have kind of a chain reaction, a positive effect on you as well. Okay, so I would definitely suggest you do that. I've started doing that, and again, I work with some people doing that, and I think that it's, even right away, it's manageable, it's not overwhelming, and it unconsciously and automatically kind of creates other benefits in your life. Okay, that can be really helpful, and it does that automatically. So cool. So that's about it. Again, I would strongly suggest you get this book, The Power of Habit. It's kind of a quick read. It's interesting. And there's a lot of other stuff in there as well that again, just gives you a clear understanding of how you operate as a person. And the more you understand how you operate, the more you can begin to influence it and, do it the way that you want to. Okay? So I hope you enjoy this. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.